Speaker, we also know there have been challenges around the film tax credit, the tax grant that exists in our province and right across the country and in over 40 states in the United States. Mr. Speaker, I'll deal with it. Quickly if I can. There's been a lot of very good debate about the issue in the province. This is an industry that attracts and trains very creative people who do make Saskatchewan better. And this is an industry that in our province and across our country comes at a cost that's higher than almost any other industry in terms of the tax system. The tax system in place today that we have, that we've supported, that was put in place in the late 90s, is a tax system that says to a company, if you come in and set up a shell production company, and many of the applications are precisely this, set up a shell company, a temporary company, to do the production only, you can earn grant. You'll earn the tax credits, a grant up front, regardless of how much tax you pay in the province, regardless of where you're domiciled. Just based on that production's cost, here's the rate of subsidy. Mr. Speaker, we have seen that tax credit not work very well in this province of late. Not because we didn't have it, we did, but because other jurisdictions were enriching their tax credits. They were enriching these tax grants. They're doing so right across North America. It is a bidding war today. People in the film industry, we heard the minister comment, are noting as taxpayers that that there's a bidding war happening. And so it presents a choice. And you do the evaluation. You see how much activity comes from the tax credit. How much of the spin-off activity comes from that, and you consider the cost, and you consider the future as well in terms of that cost, where the industry itself has told us, by the way, you got not to just reinstate it, but in the report that was done, if you're going to keep up with everyone else in the bidding war, it's another $3.5 million with the taxpayers' subsidy to go to the industry. That's right. And so we have to make a difficult choice and be the first one in the country to say, when it comes to that bidding war, we're not going to be in the bidding war anymore. That's right. We'd be happy to change the tax credit to a non-refundable tax credit that effectively reduces taxes paid in the province, not just on productions, but from companies. We saw in that same report that the minister's referenced, that the critic has referenced, that there was a desire on the part of the industry to see it grow in the province more substantively, to see a focus on all of our policy on Saskatchewan companies. Well, a refundable tax credit can do that, because it says to companies domiciled here, with roots here in the province, paying tax in the province, that you are going to get preferential treatment because we want your companies to grow here in Saskatchewan and for you to employ people in the industry. We've also said to them, the soundstage is yours if you like it, along with what would be our operating loss for a couple of years to capitalize that venture. Mr. Speaker, that is a reasonable approach from a government that says we're out of the bidding war, but we'll look at other ways, creative ways perhaps, to sustain the industry. I've heard the arguments of, well, but there's all these spin-offs. Mr. Speaker, if we applied the logic that we've heard from members opposite and others, and it's an important debate, I happen to disagree with the position, and I'll say so now. If we applied the same logic that these tax grants are good because of the spin-offs that occur, we'd have them in every other industry. Right. Everyone. There would be an infinite amount of benefit. And people say, well, they're cost neutral. If they're cost neutral and they create a 6-to-1 benefit in the economy, why aren't they applied to every other sector? That's right. People have said, well, there's incentives in the potash industry. Well, there may be if they do certain things like they expand in the province, but there's still a net tax paid to the people of this province for their resource. And by the way, it's sunsetted. That tax incentive ends by definition. And when it ends, they pay the highest royalties in the world, and billions of dollars have been invested, and thousands are created. And the subsidy or the tax incentive, a real credit, not a grant, ends. I asked the industry when we met with them with the minister, when could we stop this tax credit, this grant then? When is the industry going to be at the point where it doesn't need it anymore? Because that's the difference between this and other tax measures. Never, they said, as long as someone else is in the bidding war. Mr. Speaker, the logic of, well, you should do it because it's cost neutral and there's spin-offs, it doesn't hold, Mr. Speaker. It simply doesn't hold. We've seen the numbers, and it doesn't hold. Otherwise, we'd apply it to every other single industry, from restaurants to the service sector to financial services to agriculture to manufacturing, to everything. Mr. Speaker, that argument we just fundamentally disagree with, and so we've made a difficult decision, and we're certainly willing to work with the industries. The morning after the budget, I was watching one of the morning shows on local channels, and I noticed that the official opposition leader was on TV, and he was commenting on the budget, and he was critical of certain things, and that's what debate's all about. He was critical of the film tax credit decision that the government made. Fair enough. The reporter asked him, though, she said, okay, so if there's more money needed for filmmakers, where would the money come from?
What did he say? What would he say?
Well, this is a quote, Mr. Speaker. Well, practically, there are a number of areas where they could have left money for films. And one of the things they could have done is look at some of the initiatives around agriculture and look at some of the things they've done for municipalities.
What does that mean, I wonder?
Which things? Which things, Mr. Speaker? Which things that this government has done in agriculture or for municipalities? It's got a bit of a walk on that quote that the Leader of the Opposition's had. A potentially very divisive quote. Mr. Speaker, it bears repeating. Where would you find the money to give to the filmmakers? One of the things they could have done, he said, and I'm quoting, is look at some of the initiatives around agriculture and look at some of the things they've done for municipalities.
Wow.
How many years of downloading did municipalities face in this province under the NDP?
16 years.
Mr. Speaker, they did not act on the request for municipalities for revenue sharing. One of the most fundamental tasks, I think, of a provincial government is to understand that the front line of economic development, that the front line of growth, that order of government that's closest to the people are rural municipalities and urban municipalities. Right. And when the province can afford it, when the province is gaining in revenue, and it was under their watch, I think when they walked away there was $700 million finally cash, by the way, not just an accounting entry. I think there was actual cash in that rainy day fund of the NDP. So they had money. What was happening for revenue sharing to municipalities so they could keep up with housing demands, so they could service more lots, so they could provide better public safety, so they could provide better water and sewer services in a growing province, so that they could ease the pressure on education tax in the rural municipalities. What was happening from that NDP government on that fundamental test of good provincial government? Nothing, Mr. Speaker. There were cuts, Mr. Speaker. That's what there were. And now, when asked, well, where would you get the money then? If you don't like this cut, you don't like that change, where would it come from? We'll take it from the municipalities in the province of Saskatchewan, say the NDP. No, they will not, because I know how the vote's going to turn out today, Mr. Speaker, and it certainly won't be on the side of the New Democrats. It'll be on the side of rural Saskatchewan, of farmers, and of municipalities in this province who ought not to be treated with that disrespect that they've received over the last week.